All right, guys, welcome to this land and cigar chat. I'm on top of a mountain. Um, just finished a few miles of a hike, and I'm going to smoke a cigar with you guys right now, which I've never done on a hike before. Honestly, it sounds kind of terrible, but we've been making these videos lately, these kind of cigar and land chat videos, and you guys have been absolutely loving them. And these are like the antithesis of a Mr. Beast video, more like a Mr. Least video. But yeah, been getting tons of good feedback. I've got a lot to say. And yeah, cigar just feels like a really nice addition to these videos. Now, if you guys are new here, we talk about building land investing businesses. We talk about how you can build a land investing business. Can't even get my words out. I actually just released our purchase agreement for free. We kind of relaunched it. If you guys go to landinvestor.co/PA, you guys can get it for free. Kind of relaunched it and redid it. So if you guys haven't gotten that, that's the purchase agreement that we use to buy all of our deals, and we're giving it away for free. Anyways, yeah, got a lot to cover, man. I just got back from like 30 hours of travel, flying from Indonesia to Australia to San Francisco, and then driving down to my hometown of Monterey, California. I'm actually in Carmel Valley right now. And if I stop during the videos because I'm smoking a cigar. I know a lot of people listen to these like podcasts, so I apologize. Hopefully it's not too annoying. But yeah, I'm in my hometown. God damn, it feels good to be home. You know, I think it's so important if you're young to leave your hometown, but it's also so important to come back to your hometown. You know, about 2 years ago, I started doing some really fucked up math. Sounds weird, but the math that I was doing is I see my parents about 3 times a year, okay? My parents are young, but let's say best case scenario, they live another 40 years. Multiply that by 3, it's 120 more visits that I'll get with my parents before they kick the bucket, or maybe I'll kick the bucket before them, who knows? And when you quantify it like that, it puts it in perspective. Even if you don't get along with your parents, even if you've got a rough relationship, it's so important that you go back home. We all have family drama, we all have family stuff, but it's, yeah, you don't have much time. And I think every time you go back home too, it gives you perspective on who you once were. So hear me out. This is not land related, but I promise it's might be interesting. So I've lived in probably like 11 or 12 different houses growing up. And at the time, that felt like a bad thing. Looking back on it now, though, it gave me a lot of really cool experiences. So in my hometown, my county, I lived in Marina, I lived in Seaside, I lived in Monterey, I lived in Pacific Grove, I lived in Big Sur, I lived in Carmel Valley, I lived out by Cashawa, I lived in Corral de Tierra, I lived in Toro Park. Like, I lived all over. And so I've built up these little memories all over my county. I lived every piece of the county. And my favorite place that I ever lived in was a place called Carmel Valley. It's where I'm at right now. And in particular, there was this house that I lived on when I lived there with my cousins. Okay, so it was my cousin who's the same age as my sister, it was my mom, it was my aunt, and it was my younger cousin as well. So we all lived together. It's one of the best chapters of my life. It was fucking awesome. It was just the greatest time ever. I was a junior in high school, and we had the time of our life. We had this beautiful house up in the mountains here in Carmel Valley, wraparound deck. You could see the sunsets. I was with my cousin, who was like my brother. We were so close in age and just so close. And something really traumatic happened in my family that made us leave my senior year. It's one of the hardest, most heartbreaking, hardest things that I had experienced as a kid, because that was my first kind of glimpse of stability, and it got taken away. And I have always held that very near and dear to my heart. So I book an Airbnb. I'm in Bali. I book an Airbnb. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to stay in Carmel Valley. I'm here for my best friend's wedding. So I book an Airbnb. I don't think anything of it. It's just like, all right, these ones are really expensive, like $5,000 for the week. These ones are like $1,000 for the week, but they're kind of crappy. So I'm like, let me pick something in the middle. So I got something like, you know, nice-ish, little house. Turns out I pull up yesterday. I'm a 2-minute walk from that house. Total coincidence. And what's crazy is the address on the Airbnb listing showed a different address. So when I saw the address, I didn't put 2 and 2 together, because why would I? It's just a random street name. But that address was wrong. So I drove up to the address on Airbnb. I'm like, wait, this isn't the house. We look further, they put the wrong address. I put in the right address. I was like, holy shit, that's right by the house that I grew up at. It's just cool, man. Life's so funny like that. Anyways, got a lot to share with you guys here today. And, you know, I've been seeing something really interesting happen with Land Insights. So if you guys don't know, we built a little SaaS app for land investors. We kind of let the code do the work for us, let the robots do the work for us, let the AI do the work for us. And what's funny is when we launched that tool a year ago, it was really just serving the middle of the market, okay? So it really wasn't a good tool for brand new land investors. Like at that point, you just don't need it unless you're doing a few thousand mailers a month. And what we found is the super advanced guys, like the top dogs, they weren't getting on it either because they're like, hey, I see the value, totally makes sense. But, you know, I've already got VAs that are doing my scrubbing or VAs that are doing my market selection or whatever. Like they were already entrenched in their ways. Or a lot of them just said, Sumner, I work in the same markets. Like I found the markets that work for me and I just keep on working there. But it's, you know, it's an awesome idea. I just don't think I need it. So the demographic that we were serving was the middle of the market. It was folks that were maybe doing like 5 to 20,000 mailers a month. They were actively growing. They're picking, you know, a dozen or 2 dozen new markets a month. They're scrubbing their data. They might have 2 or 3 team members, like kind of middle of the market, multiple 6 figures, low 7 figures. And in the last few weeks, really I'd say the last month, something crazy has happened. All of those guys on the high end, the super advanced dudes, they've been joining Land Insights and they've all been saying the same thing. And it's so freaking weird. They've all been saying, I'm joining because my deals aren't selling. And what's happening right now is that there's a shift in liquidity. The liquidity in the land business is changing, right? Markets that were good a year ago or 2 years ago are no longer good. And so these guys and gals, they built businesses saying, I just work in Texas or I just work in Oklahoma. I just work in these few counties. The problem is those counties aren't what they once were. Now they've got triple the supply and deals aren't moving. Or they have a VA that selects markets from them, but they're not looking at the totality of the US, right? The VA is only selecting whatever, 100 counties a month. So they're looking at a very small segment of the US, and that might not be where the liquidity is. And the beautiful thing about Land Insights is we look at it all. Like you find objectively what the best market is. There's no subjective bias there. And these super advanced players, something is happening. And it's just a weird kind of canary in the coal mine that they're all saying like, holy shit, something shifted in my business. It's not working. And these are guys that know what they're doing, and girls, not just guys, but who know what they're doing. And I feel like something is brewing in the land business. And I'm not Nostradamus. I don't know what's brewing, but there is a shift in liquidity. It's leaving a lot of places. It's still there. Like we've had an ungodly number of offers on our properties in the last month. I mean, no joke, probably 30 plus MLS offers because we're working on what I think are the best markets out there. So something is going on. I don't say that as a pitch for Land Insights. I say that to say, if you've been doing the same thing for a long time, it might not be working. If you've been working in the same markets for a long time, they might be changing, right? Something is happening. And on that same note, too, it's like things might tighten up in the land business. Who knows? They might. And if they do, too, you need to make sure that like your operational expenses are lean. Like if you're paying a VA $1,000 a month to select markets and you're paying $3,000 a month for your data scrub, like something's got to change there. And that's why I think moving over to a higher leverage, lower cost model where code is doing the work for you. Yeah, sure. Land Insights is $500 a month, but it shows you everything under the sun. There's no subjective bias there. And that cost doesn't inflate. You know what I mean? Like if you want your VA to go source more markets, well, it's going to cost you more. So I think it's a time to be really, really lean in our operations. It's also a time to be really nimble and chasing liquidity. I don't know what's happening. Could be the election, could just be a lull because of the election, but something's happening. But I see the back end of it too. I also see folks that are, you know, newer to land, or I see our business or Ryland's business, you know, folks that are heavy into the Land Insights and kind of like the Leah playbook, and they're still thriving. So those people are having their best months ever. In fact, we had our best month for the year last month in August, and we'll probably have another potentially record breaker for 2024 this month. So there's still liquidity out there. Deals are still selling. I just say that to say, be nimble. I don't know what it means, but just be nimble. The other thing that I wanted to share is kind of an interesting story, more like a parable than anything else. Super timely. It's actually happened today. Now, I'm not going to mention any names, and I want to preface that this isn't a bad story. If the person's watching this video, I'm not talking any crap or anything along those lines. I'm just kind of using this as a story that I think we can all relate to. So we had a gentleman that wanted to join Leah, perfect fit for Leah in every single way. And one of the things that happens, so when you look to join Leah, you do a discovery call. We kind of figure out about you, see if you're the right fit. And if you're the right fit, then we move over to a strategy call where you kind of feel us out and make sure that we're the right fit. And in between those two calls, there's a video that we make people watch. It's kind of like an in-between video that does lay some of the foundations, right? And in that video, we talked about there's really two buckets for folks that look to join Lee, okay? First bucket is someone that's looking to leave their job. Second bucket is someone that's looking to pivot out of a business model into a better business model. Like, that's our main demographic, right? They're usually in one of those two buckets. Of course, not everyone is, but if we had to generalize, it's in those two buckets. So the gentleman watches that video. He comes back on the call. He's like, hey, you know what, man? I just don't think it's the right fit. I'm just not in either one of those camps. And he said, I don't ever want to leave my job. I love what I do. He's in the first responder world. He's like, I love what I do. I honestly, like, this is something to as a, side income, but this is not like, I don't want to just be a land investor. I don't want to just be a business owner. I love what I do. And I want to talk about that because I think there might be people in this camp that are feeling that way, but it also dates back to one of these entrepreneurial epiphanies that I had early in my journey. So like a lot of people, in the world of business, mentorship is everything. Like, talk to every successful business person that's 5 years in, 10 years in. They've all had mentors, and they all have had pivotal mentors. I'm no different. And so there was some advice that I received, which at the time felt like it didn't fit for me. And the advice was, you want to build your businesses to be sold. You want to build with the end in mind. You want to build that you're going to sell this thing. And I'm a young guy, and I'm naive. Like, the idea of selling a business, like, just didn't, I'm like, no, I want to go all in. I want cash flow. I want to do this for the next 10 or 20 years. I don't want to sell a business. It wasn't even like remotely on my mind. And I'm like, that's just bad advice. I'm like, that's not what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to be with this rocket ship for a long time. Like, that just doesn't, no. What I missed in that, though, is that you build with the constraint of saying, I'm building this to sell, because it changes the decisions that you make. It also changes the frame that you live in. And when you live in a different frame, you get different results. So let me apply that to this story, okay? This gentleman says, hey, my business isn't really thriving right now, but I don't also feel like Lee is the right fit for me because I'm not trying to go all in on this thing. That's actually the wrong belief. What you want to say is, I want to build a business that gives me optionality. I want to build a business that gives me the option to leave if I want to. But whether I do or don't is ultimately, that's a personal choice. But your business should never be the one to decide whether that's a choice you get to make. Same thing, whether I want to sell or not, I should still build a business that gives me the optionality to sell. And when we think about, what does a business do? A business produces money. And what does money do? Money provides optionality. So this gentleman right now is not satisfied with his business, but he says, also, your education isn't right for me because I don't want to leave my business. No. The education is right for you because you don't have the business that you want to have. You need to get the business that you want to have. And the choice that you make, whether you want to go full time or leave your job, that's a personal choice. And so I think for all of us, though, like, whether you relate to that story or relate to the selling story, you want to think about kind of creating these forced constraints. I don't even know if I'd call it a constraint, but it's like starting with the end in mind, and then also what that does for the reframe, right? I just feel like you go about everything differently when you're thinking about, I'm building this to provide myself optionality, or I'm building this to have the ability to sell at some point. And honestly, had I thought in my own situation, had I built a business to sell, I would have gone about it so differently. As I've started other businesses since then, I do think about the end in mind, and I do think about selling, because maybe it's more appealing to me now, but also I know it's the right way to build a business, right? Just the way you go about things, you're creating an ownership manual in case someone else has to come in and take the thing from you, whether that's a CEO that you hire, or maybe that's a new person that you sell it to. Like, thinking through that, I think, is so important. And same thing, if you're watching this video and say, Sumner, I love my job, I love my business, land is a side hustle, you should still be thinking about, how can I build a business that at least gives yourselves the optionality? And at the end of the day, what else is money but options? Money is options. And what are we here to do through a business? Ultimately, you're here to make money for yourself, for your team, and you're here to serve your clients. That's it. That's all business is. Business is not charity, and charity work has its own place in the world, but it's not what business is. And I just think getting really clear on, like, what is this thing here to do for you is so important. I thought it was such an interesting story, and it reminded me of myself. Damn, this thing keeps on going out. Such a bummer. I'm talking too much. Another thing that I want to share with you guys, and this actually comes directly out of our Discord. If you guys aren't in our Discord, it's free to join, landinvestor.co/Discord. I think we've got like almost 1,600 land investors in there. Super active. I'd say it's the most active group out there, at least per capita, at least per user, but maybe even just in general, places popping off hundreds of messages a day usually. But A question that's been coming up that I wanted to share here. We've been hiring new acquisition managers in our business. And so this is like right on the forefront of my brain. And the question is like, what are the KPIs I should be measuring my acquisition team against? What are the expectations for them, right? And this doesn't really change overseas or US. It's the same thing. The results might be different, but the KPIs should be the same. So I wanted to share that here with you guys here, okay? And these are the kinds of questions I had when I got into land that for some reason, no one could answer for me. It was always, it's a fugazi. Like it was no one that could give me a clear answer. And there's nothing more than I hate than when I ask someone that's an expert, hey, tell me about this. And they give me some fluffy answer. I'm like, it drives me nuts. So hopefully I can be clear with you guys. So typically what we want to think about in terms of like total number of dials is usually if they don't have a dialer, like they're just like standard dialing, and these are not cold calls, right? These are just like qualified-ish, inbound leads. So it's different. If you're cold calling people, you could cold call a boatload of people. These are like ones where you presumably are going to have real conversations with. You should be looking at about 50 to 75 manual dials per day without a dialer. Now, the next layer I think about is how many individuals am I talking about? Because, of course, you could quadruple dial 20 people and hit 80 dials, and it looks pretty good. Usually we're looking for about 40 to maybe 50 individual dials. We're going kind of wide there. The next thing I want to think about is what are the depth of those conversations? So then I think about what's the total talk time. Should be about an hour and a half, maybe 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours on kind of an outlier day. Again, whether the AMs mean to or not, people can spoof and game the metrics. And so I don't want to just see a boatload of dials. I want to see that we're going wide to a boatload of individuals. I also want to see that when we get on a call with a qualified prospect, we're also going deep with them. Okay, so I think about talk time. With those metrics, you should be making about maybe 3 to 6 or so verbal offers a day. There'll be outlier days, but somewhere in that range. It should average out to over about 100 offers, verbal offers a month. Again, depends on the lead source and the quality. I mean, it does change for everyone, but somewhere in that range, about 3 to 6 a day. That should be about 1 to 2 contracts sent a day. How many contracts you get signed in a month, it's so lumpy, man. With those KPIs, one acquisition manager from decent qualified leads should be putting together, I don't know, 8 to 12 contracts a month, something like that. And maybe 80% of those you move forward with for maybe title issues or something else kind of stems up and breaks those deals down. So if those are not your KPIs, something to look at. But yeah, it's been a common question. Hopefully that clears it up for you guys. There's multiple layers that we think about. Now that's not all we're measuring our team against. Like those aren't like activity metrics aren't the only things in terms of like outbound communication. There's more that goes into it. But yeah, roughly that's what we're looking for. So hopefully that helps shed some light. The next question too actually relates to building acquisition teams. Which we actually have a program coming out most likely early next year about building acquisition teams. It really is the lifeblood of the land business. I say it so much, but once you're doing like 250K, 300K a year, like that is the next step to put rocket fuel to your business. Now, people have woken up to that fact and gotten better at it. But I still see so many people that run crappy acquisition teams. They don't even know how to manage their teams or maximize performance, or maybe it's a sourcing and hiring issue, so they don't even know how to source and hire. I've actually been working with a new agency called Outsource Your Tasks. Maybe I'll put the link down below. I think we got like a discount code for them. We've been using them. It's been awesome so far. We haven't placed the person yet. We're kind of going through the rigmarole. We've had a bunch of different interviews, but they've been really, really good to work with. We've had dozens of Leah members use them. So if you're looking for like a kind of mid-ticket placement group, they're not super expensive and they're not super duper cheap, but they're super high quality. They're really, really good at what they do. Highly recommend. So I'll put that maybe down in the link below. I think it's so important that you know how to source your own talent. But the next thing I want to talk about is comp plans for overseas versus US acquisition managers. Again, really popular question. So there definitely is a quality difference between overseas and US. I think you really start to feel it as you get into bigger deals, longer follow-up cycles, longer sales cycles, more complex deals. For the standard flips, honestly, I think you get more yield from an overseas AM if you're just doing like the classic buy for 20, sell for 40 type deal. So it's not essential that you have a US base, but if you're doing big subdivides, I do think there's value in it. Or development deals or partnership deals or what have you, as they get more complex. So overseas, you're looking at probably $8 to $12 an hour. I would say anywhere between 2 to 4% of gross profit. That could be a sliding scale based off of kind of internal goals. US base would be $25 to maybe $35,000 base salary, and then 7.5 to maybe 12% of gross profit. It could be on a sliding scale. And those are the standard comp plans. People ask me all the time, like, should you hire folks that are, previous land businesses? Honestly, most land investors businesses just aren't very, they're just not worth trying to pull people from, because a lot of times they come in with bad habits. And I'd say the same thing for folks from wholesaling businesses. Like, there's definitely some savage closers that you get, but my experience, which is limited, but my experience has not been amazing sourcing kind of previous wholesale talent. So I'm not a big fan of that. I'm honestly a big fan of finding hustlers from like door-to-door sales, or they were like in heavy outbound cold calling roles, people that are okay grinding it out on the phones, high IQ, high EQ, like really, really in tune with speaking to people. Those are the folks I look for. I look for folks that are high D on a disc profile, folks that get energy from phone calls. They don't feel drained from phone calls, and folks that are frankly money motivated. Like it's just that important. Like that is such a huge factor. If your incentive isn't strong enough, as in making money is not a strong enough factor for them, skill's not enough. Like there has to be a real fire in the belly, a real hunger. And I've seen the difference there. I've seen great AMs that have skills that incentive is just not strong enough. Like they just don't really care. So I'm looking for highly motivated people. I'm looking for folks that are looking to change their life. Now, to do that, they got to feel like they're part of an organization where that's possible, where they're in a vehicle that can take them to where they want to go. So that's a whole other can of worms. Like, do you have a business that can actually grow and grow with them? But also, are you and the organization itself like an inspiring group to be with? That's one of the weirdest things about working with more people and leading teams. You yourself have to be on some level aspirational. And if you don't have what they want, they're never going to feel like you're going to deliver them on the right vehicle. So you also have to become that person, that guy, that gal, to find folks in your team that are that guy or that gal. Like it really is that simple. It's like this leadership is very exposing. Like it really exposes you. Like usually if you've got a team of C- players, you might be a C- player, right? And so you really do reflect like what you are in terms of the kind of team, the caliber of the team that you can either get or keep. Sometimes you will find amazing people, but you will not keep them. And that is one of the strangest things about building a team, is all of a sudden the work looks a lot different. Who you are as a person, I think, matters a lot more, especially if they're interfacing with you at a high level. And if they're not, well, then that matters to your leadership team. Like whatever your manager is, or COO or CEO. I think that stems back to how you do one thing is how you do everything. You've got to have high character. I'm not saying all leaders have high character, but if you're going to retain amazing talent and you're going to work with A plus players, you got to be the shit. You do. Like you really do. And to be the shit means you keep your commitments to others and to yourself. Like you're rock solid. Like they know this guy's no joke, or this girl's no joke. Like they are it. And they've got to feel like if they're going to battle with you, like, you're going to win. If they don't have confidence that you can navigate the battle and move the troops and flank in the right areas, like they're just never going to feel like you're going to deliver them to your dreams. It really is like, it's a very much a cost and benefit kind of trade-off thing. Like they got to be like, okay, the cost is my time, and the opportunity cost of maybe wasting my time, but the benefits is I feel like this person can get me to where I want to go, or at least has created a vehicle that can get me to where I want to go. And I think a lot of folks lose sight of that. They lose sight of that aspirational element to building an amazing team. And I really feel like right now in our land business, or even just in my businesses in general, between Leah, between TLP, between Land Insights, and between a new project that we're drumming up, I work with killers, man. And it wasn't always that way, but my team is so freaking rock solid. It's insane. Both because some people we've cultivated and they've just grown into superstars. And then also just some new talent, fresh talent that we've been able to work with that are just amazing people, dude, amazing people. And when I think back to like, why did I not have that in the beginning? Well, I don't think I was that amazing. And I still have plenty of deficits. My communication style can be too abrasive. I can be too intense. I can be too technical for people. I can be overbearing. I can have really high standards. I'm not a perfect person to work with by any means, but I've also evolved, and I've become a better person, frankly. And I think that is reflected in the people that I get the chance to work with. And I just feel so grateful about that. And I've really learned that going from like a B player to an A plus player is exponential. It's like a power law. Like it compounds. It's not linear in the slightest. And for you, if you're building a business at a certain point, it becomes a people game. It really does. And if you can't find A plus talent, I don't care how great your vision is or how good the opportunity is that you have at hand. Like you could have Uber, you could have this crown jewel of a business and opportunity, but if it's staffed with the wrong people, I don't think it's going to win. I don't even think it's possible. And so I don't know what that trigger is in your journey. Maybe it's, I don't know, low seven figures. I don't know what that is, like when the skill kicks in, but I do know there's a certain point where all of a sudden it really does become about leadership. And you got to look in the mirror and see, who the hell are you as a person? What kind of commitments do you keep? Are you aspirational on any level? And can you communicate? And that is such a tough thing, because if you're a founder and you've created something and you're a builder and you're a creator, you're pretty hardcore usually. I don't know a lot of like non-hardcore builders. Like they're usually folks that are kind of rough around the edges, but that's their superpower, right? They can bend reality to their will. They can change the world in front of them. They can change the material world. Not everyone has that, I don't think. Or maybe not everyone's tapped into that. But usually those folks have a really hard time communicating in a gentle manner to others, not applying that same to others. And that's something that I've really struggled with, because I can be intense. I can be, like my mom used to say, a mountain goat. Like I've got horns on my head that I just want to grind on things and push and push. And that does not resonate well with communicating at all. And so it's like there's this evolution that you go through of like, how do you not lose that fire in your belly? But also, how do you communicate in a way to where you're not too abrasive, to where you're not pushing people down, to where you're raising people up? And it's an interesting metamorphosis that you have to go through. And what's so funny is I can date all of this shit back to two things, okay? The reason that I'm in the position I'm in, and which I'm whatever, I'm moderately successful. I don't think I'm like the top dog by any means, but I feel incredibly freaking grateful and oddly like, how am I in this situation? How do I get access to work with such cool people? I still feel the gravity of the situation. It dates back to two things. One, I have a massive fucking chip on my shoulder, bigger than I think anyone I've ever met, to be totally honest. I'm sure there's others out there with a bigger chip on their shoulder. And it's not that I was dealt the worst cards ever. My life has been awesome. But for whatever reason, I came into this world feeling like I had something to prove, not necessarily to others, but to myself. A lot of that dates back to some of my relationships with my family, but there's that, okay? But the first time I ever took that energy and moved it into something, into the material world, was going and lifting weights. Now, it's so fucking stupid, right? Lifting weights, working out, how superficial, how dumb. But that, my friend, that was the first time I ever got real proof that I was able to do anything, that I was able to change myself and therefore the world around me. And I can date all this stuff back to going to the gym, which just makes me think how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so if you want to be a badass, if you want to grow to your full potential, it's like, all right, master the small shit. Master the basics. Become a pro at the basics. You want the big things, you've got to master the small things. And it's so funny that I can date all this stuff back, because look, I was a freaking C- student, maybe a D+ student. Like I was not a great communicator. I was shy. I was timid. I was small. I was weak. I was told I was lazy. I was told I was stupid. I was in special needs classes, all of that shit. Right? And I just needed to get a little bit of evidence that I was capable of something. And the gym was that for me. And yeah, dude, I don't know. Life is just so funny like that. It's just so weird. So if you're going through a rough patch right now, I want you to ask yourself, are you dialed in on the basics? Are you mastering the basics every day? Like, do you drink enough water? Do you take out the trash when you see the trash is overflowing? Do you write in your journal if that's a commitment to yourself? Do you wake up on time? Do you go to bed on time? Do you eat right? Do you take care of your body? Do you take care of your mind? The basics, dude. And all these frou-frou online gurus talk about, oh, the morning routines are so dumb. Ice baths are so dumb, blah, 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 blah. Sure, some of it's blown out of proportion, but mastering the basics will never be dumb. Ever. I'm so staunchly against the crap that people talk about, habits and morning routines and all that stuff. No. That stuff is important because you're dialing in the basics, and you need some evidence that you're capable. You need some evidence that you're cultivating discipline. You need some evidence that you can change the world around you. And usually it's a lot easier to do that on the small stuff. Evidence that you can go sit in that ice bath for 5 minutes. Now, it's a small example, but that's evidence. And if you're going through a hard time, you need some freaking proof of how powerful you are, because every single one of us, every single one of you guys watching this video, you have a super human inside of you. You've got a superwoman, superman, whatever you want to call it. There is so much untapped, unrealized potential. And sometimes you just need to witness a little bit of proof. You see, humans are so reliant on our senses. Like, we need to taste it, touch it, feel it, see it, hear. Like, you need to feel it with your senses. Now, maybe it shouldn't be that way, but that is the way it is. So you need to start witnessing the full breadth of your capabilities, and shit just changes, man. Shit just changes. So yeah. Anyways, guys, I hope this has been an interesting video. I might make some more of these. I've got a kind of a crazy setup going on the next few weeks. So I flew from Bali to California, then I go California next week to Paris, then Paris to Italy, then Italy to Croatia, then Croatia to Italy, then Italy to Seattle, then Seattle to Las Vegas for the event, then Las Vegas to Utah to go camping, and then flying back to Bali. And I don't know how that's going to work. You know, I'm juggling 3 full-time businesses. Like I said, we're working on a new project, so call it 4. And I think that might be interesting to document how that actually works, how that actually plays out, because it's a little bit crazy for sure. I don't know why I'm doing it necessarily, but I think, what's the point of doing all this stuff if you can't cultivate some adventure in your life? For me, it's one of the most important things. Like, I need to feel like I'm on the edge. I need to feel like I'm living in an adventure. I need to create adventure. And you don't need money to create adventure. It doesn't mean that you are traveling the world and, you know, jet setting everywhere. Adventure could be coming out here and getting lost in the mountains. I need that wildness, that rawness in my life. And so that's why I'm doing it. While on paper it's probably not optimal, I'm okay with that. Not everything needs to be optimal. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna walk back, go get some dinner here in Carmel Valley. If you guys enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. If you guys don't know, we're hosting our mastermind in Las Vegas, October 12th and 13th. In Las Vegas, the Leah Mastermind, 300 land investors. It's going to be insane. Go to landinvestor.co/mastermind to see if tickets are still available. See you guys in the next one. Take care of yourself. Much love. Bye.